is that's why we have to continue our studies through this. Okay, so my students of class 12, you know that this is my third class of the topic that we were discussing, and for a very brief summary I would like to inform you and those who have missed my previous classes that we are talking about a civilization, an ancient civilization which was there in India, and one of the oldest civilization of the world, that is the Harappan civilization, or that is the Indus Valley civilization. And in this topic we are discussing the topics based on the Harappan civilization and its art, craft, trade and different matters of the civilization, right? So as far as we have completed, we have seen how the Harappan civilization have emerged, how the people they used to live, how they used to build their houses, and they used to have their homes, their roads, their business, everything we have seen. So today we will see that how these people they used to communicate with each other and what were the techniques of dealing with different products with each and other, like trading or something, right? So we are going to talk about the topic called seals, script and weights. Okay, so we will start. So in Harappan civilization, what we are discussing, in Harappan civilization, the script is very important. Why? Because they used an pictorial script. What is that? Like, you know, in class 11 also you have studied that the early human beings, when they started their communication, they first did use hands and facial expressions, postures and gestures to communicate with each other. Then they started painting. Through painting they used to communicate with each other, and writing is nothing else than a kind of a painting. So in Harappan civilization, like the Egyptian civilization, the script or the letters or the alphabets, whatever we can see is pictorial, that means derived from any picture. Okay, so what is the problem is that till today the script of Harappan civilization is not deciphered. As it is not deciphered, we cannot read what the Harappan people have written. We have only seen the signs and symbols like this. We can see only the signs and symbols, but we cannot read it. We cannot read what is written in these alphabets. So we have studied the script and we have come to certain points. What are those points? That one point is that they used different motifs, and animal picture was very common in their script. Animal picture, like a picture of a fish, like a picture of a cow, picture of a rhino, picture of crocodile was very common in their script. As they used this type of characters, like the Chinese or Japanese or Korean people, they do characters. They have so many characters. Like in English, like in Roman, we have only 26 alphabets, right? If we mix those 26 alphabets only, we can make words like C, A, T, this is a cat, and B-A-T. So you can see that A-T is common everywhere. I have only changed the C and B, but the meaning has changed. But this is not there in Harappan civilization. The Harappan people have different meaning, different picture, different character for each word. Like for cat they have this, for bat they have this. Okay, so you can understand that if they have one symbol per a product, per a particular meaning, how many characters they have to remember. So they have lot of characters, lot of alphabets in their script. Okay, and they have many signs like up to 375 to 400. Just imagine 375 to 400 characters. I was really very shocked that only 26 characters I have to remember, and I then mix and match and make these words. But just imagine if you have to remember all these number of alphabets or all these number of characters, how we are going to manage it. That's why we can say that not everyone in Harappan civilization were literate. Okay, and another very interesting thing is that the script was written from right side. Now if this is a page, we generally have the margin here and we start writing like this. But in Harappan civilization the system was little bit different. They used to have margins here and they used to write from here. So they used to write from right and end in left. How we have understood this? How we have got this information? We have not read this because some of the archaeologists and scholars have found very small piece of scripts where it is seen that in the right side there is a margin, there is a huge gap, and the writer has started writing something and the place is short, so they have started writing here only, like sometimes we do when we come to the end of the page. When we come end of the page, there is nothing, no more space, so we write here. That means we start from left side and they started from right side. This is one thing which is very interesting. Okay, and what they used to write, with these kinds of scripts? They used to write with these kind of scripts the seals, the signboards, the informations and many other things. And among these things, the most important one is the seal. What is a seal? This is not a fish, this is not a sailfish. Seal is modern day, you can call it the stamp. You have seen any stamp? Like the stamp which you get in your school notice with the signature of your principal. That is a stamp. You get a stamp when you order something from online stores like Amazon or something. When you receive the packet, there is a tape marked with that company, either Amazon or Flipkart or anything. That is a seal or a stamp, or you get a stamp in a letter. In a letter you have a small cubical piece of paper where something is written and there is a stamp over it. So stamp or seal is very important in our life, and it was very important in the life of Harappan people. Why? Because they used to make this stamp to make it sure that it is coming from a particular person. Like for example, I have a seal like this. I have a seal like this where my name is written. I am sending a packet full of chocolate to you, and after I pack the chocolate, I put the seal, I put the tape, and then I put my seal over it. When you receive the pack of chocolate, you can see there is a small picture and my name written over it. So you can understand that who is sending you the chocolates, right? And if this stamp is not broken, you can understand that nobody has opened your pack. The seal is unbroken. Like all of you have mobile phones, right? When you go to buy the mobile phones from the shop, the shopkeeper tells you, or else in the mobile package it's written, don't accept if the seal is broken. We always check the seal, and the shopkeeper tells us that please check which one you want to take, then I will break the seal and you can check your model. Without breaking, you cannot check the product which is there in the packet, right? And if the seal is broken, that means somebody else have used that mobile phone. So we don't take it. Nah, I'll not take it. It's broken. You give me another pack, right? So seal is very important. And in Harappan civilization, the seals were similarly important because they used to trade in a long way. They used to send packages, packs of different goods, different items to different part of the world. And if the seal is there intact, then you can understand that the seal or the package is untempered, right? And what do we find from the seals? What do we get? What do we see in the seals? Like which I have drawn. If it is a seal, you can see that it's there, my name is there. Also it can say that it can have the name of the place from where it's sent, like Burdwan, and it is also having a picture, because we always want to present something, everything in a very beautiful way. When somebody comes to your house, you give them food, you decorate it, right? Na? You place the food in a plate, you decorate with some sauce or some kind of a mayonnaise or something, and then you present. You don't take the full kadhai in front of them and tell them eat. You don't take the whole handa in front of them and say them take it, right? We present it. So seal, if you have a picture, you have a good sense of presentation. But not only about presentation, these pictures tell us something different also. What is that? If we have drawn a picture of this flower, that means I have seen this flower. Because Harappan civilization, remember the time period, it's 2600 BCE. There was no internet, there was no WhatsApp, there was no Facebook where I can just Google it, how the tulip looks like, and the tulip pictures comes in front of me. It's not like that. Only I can see those things which is around me. So if I have a picture of a particular thing or animal or plant, that means I have seen that. So in Harappan civilization, the scholars, the historians have found many cells with different items with the pictures of animals, from which we can understand that Harappan people were aware of these. Like a very common seal, you can search it in Google today, that a picture of a unicorn. A picture of a unicorn is present in Harappa, but that doesn't mean, that does mean that Harappan civilization people have seen the unicorn. The unicorn was a special animal there? No, definitely not. Unicorn seals also give us the idea that these Harappan people were imaginative. They used to imagine that if something like the unicorn was there or will be there, how it should look. And we have these kinds of seals to guide us, to tell us about what we can understand more about the Harappan people, right? Now, the next, when we are talking about trade and we are talking about sending gifts and sending all these materials, all these things, one thing which is very important, that is how much you are going to send, the quantity. And the quantity you can understand only with the weights. If you weight something against some specific weights, then you can make the proper amount, then you can make a proper cost about it. Like when you go to market, you buy 1 kg of potatoes, right? The person who sells the vegetable, they use weights. They put 1 kg of iron weight and then put in the other bucket the potatoes. When both the plate becomes at the same weight, it is 1 kg. So the importance of weights were there in Harappan civilization, and they used different type of weights. The weights were generally cubical in shape, generally square type shapes were seen. They used smaller denominations to weigh small things, and definitely higher and bigger and heavier denominations to weigh the different heavier goods, right? So we can understand that like any other society in modern day, what we think today is, means we are definitely the so-called modern, we think we are so modern, but we are not sure about it. Who is going to give us the certificate that yes, we are modern, right? The so-called modern societies, we think that whatever is necessary for a civilization, for a society where people can live, was available in Harappan civilization. So in this manner, we can also call the Harappan civilization a very modern civilization, very, very modern and very, very what we can say, scientific also, right? Okay. So now we come to the next topic. When we are talking about all these measures about trade, about seals and scripts, their drains, their domestic architecture and everything, we should keep this in mind, that there should be some body or some institution or some person who is controlling all these. Otherwise, everybody would have done their own way. See, my government has told me to stay at home in this COVID-19 situation, right? That's why I am staying at home. I cannot go to school. I come to the studio of Anand Bharta and take your classes. But if the government was not there, if, just imagine, if the government is not there only, nobody is telling me what to do, then I have gone to my school, I have gone to the bazaar, I have taken your classes, I have travelled along, and this COVID-19 would have spread more, and maybe within 2 months I am going to die, right? So the control of a government, control of an authority is very important for a civilization or a society or a country, whatever, right? So we are going to see today now that what were the authorities like in Harappan civilization. There are many debates on this, because you know that we haven't read the script of Harappan civilization yet. So we don't know perfectly that whether this was true or whether not. So the scholars have tried, have thought of different possibilities and debated about all these in their field. So there are points through which we can understand that maybe there were something like a governing body in Harappan civilization. The historians have told us that in every town of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, it's not a very congested towns. Like if you draw like a Indus river is going like this, if this is Indus, right, you have Mohenjo-daro here, you have Harappa here, you have Lothal here. So you can see here that there are a lot of distance, but all these cities have similar kind of houses, similar kind of drains, similar kind of other systems, seals and scripts and everything. That means who told them to do it like this? Who informed them that you have to do it like this? There must be any government or body, right? But in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, in both the cities where the most evidences have been found, there is no evidence of a palace or a king or a very big statue standing with a sword. Nothing is there. Only a statue of a man who has some beard and wearing a shawl have been found, and the scholars have named it as the priest king. Why? Why a priest king? Why? You can see here two type of professions are added. One is a priest, another is a king. Why these two together? Because the historians, scholars have seen the similar position of human being, of men of power is available in Mesopotamian civilization. In Mesopotamian civilization, authorities, they used to call their king as a priest king. They used to perform two type of job. They were priests as well as kings. So as a statue have been found in Harappan civilization of a man who is having beard, whose eyes are closed and he is wearing a shawl. It's not a very full statue, it's only about the bust. The historians have called them priest king, but no palaces, no big fort has been found in Harappan civilization. But there are suggestions of the historians. What are those? Okay, some archaeologists, they are of the opinion that the Harappan society had no rulers and everybody enjoyed equal status, like in a democracy. But in democracy also there is, sometimes there is a president, sometimes there is the prime minister or at least a parliamentary body. But here Some scholars are suggesting that Harappan people doesn't have any kind of ruling authority. They used to control themselves only. Okay, number one. Number two, that there was no single ruler but several rulers. They say that in every city there was a ruler, and all these rulers, they make a committee, a group of council, where they will sit together and they will discuss about a particular matter, and they will decide, and again they will go back to different cities and implement that, like a parliamentary body. Okay, and some of the scholars also suggest that there was only one ruler, and that's why they say that because of the similarity of different cities, because of the similarity of the domestic architecture, similarity of the drains, similarity of the seals, suggests that they had single ruler, and that single ruler used to rule from a particular place. A few years back, there was a movie was released named about Mohenjo-daro, and Hrithik Roshan was a hero of that movie, right? You all remember that. I would suggest that in that movie, actually what was shown, it was all rubbish, right? Means most of the things were rubbish, but they showed a committee and a council like this. So you can imagine, if you have watched the movie, then you can imagine that how they used to discuss things. There were enmity, there were selfishness, there was jealousy, everything was available in that committee. And you know that due to this committee's rivalry, the hero of the movie was sent somewhere else. That is a different story, but you can see the committee there. And you can also see the presence of the priest king there, who was kind of a ruling of the Mohenjo-daro city, right? So you can imagine that we don't know really what was there, but it's our imagination which we have reconstructed. I'm telling it every day that it's a reconstruction of the history from whatever we have got. Okay, now we come to the saddest part of the topic, and definitely about the civilization, that is the end of civilization. Suddenly, during, as I told you that it started to prosper during 2600 BCE, right? But around 1900 BCE, we can see that some of the big Harappan civilization cities were abandoned. Nobody used to live in some of the major cities like Harappa, like Mohenjo-daro, and they have moved towards east side of their civilization, that is inside today's India, like the sites like Lothal, like Dholavira, like Rakhigarhi in Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan, Gujarat. But previously it was in modern day Pakistan, in the Sindh province. But why? They have abandoned those big prosperous cities and come to this side, and slowly by 1700 BCE we can see that nobody lived in Harappan civilization. And one fine morning the civilization ended and everybody forgot about it. Everyone. What happened? what actually happened during this time that people left Harappa. Like you talk about Mesopotamian civilization, like you talk about Chinese civilization, like you talk about Egyptian civilization, nobody moved from there. But what happened in Harappan civilization? There are certain reasons for which they have been suggested by definitely it was suggested by the historians, that what were the reasons behind the end of the civilization. Number one reason was the movement of river. You know that the civilization area was semi-arid, and Indus River was their lifeline. Scholars have suggested that during this period, the Indus River shifted a little bit. As it shifted, the Harappan people, they stopped having regular water, and without water you cannot survive. So slowly they leave their previous places, they left their previous places and move to new areas, right? The second reason, according to the scholars, is a flood. It was told that suddenly there was a huge flood in the Indus River, and that flood water came inside the towns, and people were sleeping, people were doing their work, they all got drowned, and the civilization ended, and people moved from that place to another, those who were alive. And this flood reason was shown in that movie called Mohenjo-daro. This is one of the reason, right? Third reason. The third reason is the Aryan invasion. It is told by some scholars that maybe some enemies, they came to Harappan civilization during this time, and this Harappan people, they didn't know how to fight. How do we know this? Because they don't have any weapon. In the whole Harappan civilization, we haven't found any single big weapon to kill a man. There was no sword, there was no bow and arrow, nothing. So the Harappan people were peace-loving people, and some other enemy group, maybe the Aryans, they came to this land and they invaded, they killed the Harappan people and went away and took control of this land and turned this land into a fallow land. It can be a possible way, because some of the skeletons which were found by the historian scholars have been seen that their head is not there, or the head is beheaded, that somebody has slashed it, right? And as they didn't know how to fight, they didn't have any weapon, they could not protest it, right? Another very important point suggested by the scholars is the overgrazing. The overgrazing of the land. As I told you in this topic, that Indus was the lifeline of Harappan civilization, and if the river shifts, the agricultural lands also become small or lesser, and if you overgraze them, finally the agricultural land or the pastoral land will not be available for you. So there is no other way to leave the land and go to some other places, right? Okay, and some others says that the deforestation, the climatic change also had effects in abandoning the Harappan civilization. But as it was abandoned from the major mature cities and they have moved it, shifted it towards some other cities, the previous culture, the previous height of the prosperity was never reached. And that is the reason we have forgotten everything about the Harappan civilization. People didn't know. It was all end, and after maybe 1000 years again people started living in their areas. So nobody knew about what was there, who were the people, how they used to live. No information was there, and we, that's why, are not carrying any of the goodness of those Harappan people. Like I mentioned in the first class, like they used toilets. Every house had toilets and bathrooms, and till today we are giving the advertisement. Amitabh Bachchan has to give the advertisement that you cannot go outside for your toilet. So today also we are trying to make bathrooms and washrooms in every houses. But Harappan people, they were from today 4500 years old, but they knew the use of toilets, they knew the use of sanitation, everything, right? So definitely they were very scientific and very modern in their own aspects, right? Now, as I told you that the Harappan civilization ended in this time. They had several reasons and they ended. Now, if it ended, who again discovered it? Who again got it? And who again started to study it? So now, today we will discuss about the discovery of Harappan civilization. The discovery of Harappan civilization finally was announced in 1925 AD. And the search for this civilization, that means started in the 20th century, right? It's very obvious. And in 20th century India, if you think who were there in India, who were ruling it? Yes, definitely it was the British. The British, they came to India to rule, but they also did something very good, and this is one of that. They have seen that India had a culture of ancient goods, ancient palaces, ancient dynasties, everything. So they set up an organization or a body which now is known as the ASI. What is that? It is the Archaeological Survey of India. It is a government department. Those who are studying history today can definitely go and join the ASI. It's a government job and it's a very prestigious job, right? And those who tell that you cannot do anything with studying history, tell them it's ISI, ASI, where I can go and have a job, right? So this ASI, the Archaeological Survey of India, was founded by the Britishers. And the first Director General of the ASI was Cunningham. Cunningham, he started discovering things, he started learning about different categories. And some people brought a seal, something written over it to Cunningham. Cunningham looked at it. He understood that this is very old, but he could not match this product with his study. Why? Because he started the study of Indian civilization, from 600 BCE onwards. Because during this time written documents were present and other travelers also came and they wrote about India. So he had written documents, original written documents about 600 BCE. So he did not match it with this period. So he left it. He said that nothing. It's something else, I don't know, throw it back. So Cunningham could not understand it. And later on, again, another person whose name was John Marshall, he became the Director General of ASI, and under him 2 young Indian archaeologists were working. One, Rakhaldas Banerjee, and another Daya Ram Sahani. So these 2 were working in 2 other places, one in Mohenjo-daro, one in Harappa. They again got seals like this and brought that to John Marshall. John Marshall, after getting 2 seals of the similar kind at the same time period, understood this is something very interesting. So he ordered these 2 archaeologists, young archaeologists, to continue their search and finally discovered the Harappan civilization. And in 1925, he announced to the world about one of the ancient civilization which is contemporary to Mesopotamia and Egypt. So just imagine, when Britain was ruling us and telling us that you are barbaric, you are illiterate, you don't know nothing, we are going to civilize you. During that time, it was proved that Indian civilization was much older than the British civilization. It was like a moment of cherish, it was like a moment to celebrate, which happened in 1925 under John Marshall. So today I'll stop here, and in my next class I'll discuss about 2 very important topics, that how John Marshall put these in their point and how the final reconstruction took place in Harappan civilization. Okay, so for today I am stopping here. Thank you.